Hello? This is Marie Kerr. I'm on the phone.
Director Wilden,
Present in Carson City.
Commissioner Kipper, Director Mullenkamp, Vice Chair Atkins,
Here.
and Chair Campbell.
Here.
All right, we have 4 members present. We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. And I'm sure when Dr. Jameson joins, she'll announce herself on the line. All right, let's open it up for public comment. And Ms. Atkins, will you help me down in Henderson? Can we have a showing of hands of how many people would like public comment, please?
Of course, Madam Chair, if I just have one announcement, I'm sorry, right before that, if we could take agenda item 7 off of the calendar today.
All right. And you'll bring that back at the normal board meeting on the 13th?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of things to cover. I probably should say one other thing on announcements. We do have to conclude this meeting by 2 o'clock. These lines have to go into another committee meeting at that point in time. So we will wind this up no later than 2 o'clock today. So how many people in Henderson?
I see 3, 4. I see 4 hands. Right.
Okay.
4 hands right now.
Thank you. And here in Carson City, we have 2. All right. Why don't we toss it back and forth?
Chair Campbell, I just want to make sure you knew that Scott Kipper is on the phone.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kipper. All right. Ms. Atkins, do you want to take 2 down there and we'll do 2 up here and then toss it back down to you for the final 2?
Sure, we're ready.
If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Lawrence Basic. Hello? Am I not? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. No. Mr. Basic, we can hear you.
My name is Lawrence Basic. I'm 62, professional engineer retired. I live here in Las Vegas. And I submitted my testimony in written form as was requested on the website. And what I'd like to do, instead of going over all of that, because you guys got that, is maybe do a little summary and then just then end it pretty quick. The first thing I want to say is that last week, I had a couple of ladies with me, and I did not introduce them, and I apologize. The 2 ladies that were with me was my ex-wife and her sister. They came to help me because I needed help. They came a mere, 2,200 miles from Hawaii, and they spent 10 days with me. Thank God for that, right? I thank God for it. I'm glad there was somebody out there for me. Now, what I want to do is I want to make this quick again. At the last week's meeting, Miss Rich, Nevada, said she would work hard for my problem. Unfortunately, to date, nothing has happened. Chairman Barbara Campbell-Smith said that she was sorry for what had been happening to me, ever since God knows when. The 1st of January, when I started having my operation and all my serious health issues. But actually, since October, since the website was difficult to work with. Thank you for your being sorry, but I'm afraid that doesn't help me any. I'm no further along than what I am than when I was actually on October 1st. I'm no further along. And also, third, Senator Reid's office. I don't know if they're here today, but they said that they would call last Friday, and they didn't call. I've gotten nothing from nobody. Nobody called, nowhere, no how, no how. So basically, thank you, the board, thank you, Xerox, thank you, Nevada Health League or National Hockey League, I even forget what it is now, for basically, I got nothing. Thank you for nothing. I'm sorry. Finally, and this is, I'm just going to wrap this up very quickly. When I was just a little puppy professional engineer, 20 years old or something like that, my supervisory engineer told me the following. He said, you'll never be an engineer. You'll never be a man unless you can say, when appropriate, the following three things. I am wrong, I don't know, and I'm sorry. I haven't heard any of that. I've heard the sorry from Chairman Rich. I've heard that. But I haven't heard somebody say, geez, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Or, gee, I was wrong. I haven't heard that. I would love to hear that. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I have to say that I had to take my ex-wife to the airport at 5 o'clock this morning, and I cannot stand too much being up. So I'm going to have to leave, go home, and take my medicine. Thank you very much. Oh, any questions? Any requests? No? Okay. Thank you.
I think we had a couple other hands for public comment if one person. Sure.
Lynn Atkins, I just wanted you to know that I've been on since the beginning of
record, Lou
public
Silla.
comment. Dr. Jameson.
Thank you, Dr. Jameson. Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Sure, it's Lou Silla. I'm an insurance broker here in Nevada.
Could you, Mr.
Lou Silla.
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of issues. One, real quick, is I just wanted to pass along that enrollment process I've experienced for the last 2 weeks has been functioning at about a 90% success ratio. I was committed to make that statement, so I wanted to do it. I have two other questions. One is the bulk of my activity up to now has been, I started my people stop by my desk and say, I started my application, I can't get it finished, what do I do? But now that's been taken over by, I got a letter from Medicaid, but I've not heard back from them. So I was wondering, and I don't expect the board to be involved in Medicaid, and I know they're processing applications as quickly as they can. I was wondering if it's possible to consider a special election period after 31st that may open up some, with proper documentation for people who have not finished their application that want to start again, or those that have caught up in Medicaid and get turned down and now have to reapply. The board could consider that. I would certainly appreciate it, assume it's within the guidelines. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we're going to go back to Carson City, and then we'll take the other folks here in Henderson.
Okay. Would you like to come forward? Is the green light on?
Green light, yes.
It is. Then you are on. Then.
Charles Swanson.
We cannot hear anything if there is any talking going on.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Now I got a green button.
thought it was on and it wasn't.
I had a green
Let's start over again.
Okay.
Can you identify yourself?
All
again
right.
for the
I'm
record?
sorry.
That's all right.
New to this. All right. Charles Swanson, resident of Douglas County. I just finished paying my federal income tax, a big dollar amount, and I'm concerned about where my money's going, obviously. I'm a professional engineer, think in linear terms. Wife is a doctorate of nursing practice, so we sort of understand the medical field. And just to give you a quick background on my philosophy or my political leaning, originally, Affordable Care Act was supposed to deal with 40 million uninsured. The question is that achieving that goal? I don't think so. We were told you could keep your plan. Doesn't seem like that's happening. There was no cost to me. Yet I have taxes on my medical device, and the Schedule A itemized deduction from medical expenses went from 7.5% to 10%. I don't care what you say, that is an expense. And then the final thing was the Affordable Care Act was based on the Constitution Commerce Clause, which to me is sort of Orwellian in that my personal decisions are now being made by the government. But anyway, went to the court. They decided that it was a tax. The government could do whatever they did, and it's a constitutional issue. But anyway, that's my background. The questions to you are where we are today. Are you achieving your goals? Do you have measurable metrics to determine whether or not you're succeeding in the program here? Very specific question. Is your budget still on track, or have you exceeded the budget, and why? How are you on scheduling signups? Are you on track as you originally programmed it? If not, why? What are the demographics of the people that are signing up right now? What is the mix? How many people are signing up because of Medicaid? How many people are signing up because they lost insurance, either individually or from an employer? Then I looked at the Xerox status report, and in there, a bunch of graphs, but I don't know what's good or bad. So there's no metrics, no standard, no judgment of are they exceeding the goals. I looked at the contractor scope of work, and in there they have a lot of things about this, but there was nothing specific about going back and reviewing your goals, your standards, your measurements of success. And final question is, how do you plan to deal with what appears to be rapidly changing rules on the Affordable Care Act? Every time I turn around, we have a law that's been passed, yet the White House arbitrarily changes it. So how do you plan to deal with those changes, because it's starting to get confusing? My comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson.
And the last comment, as a disabled veteran Vietnam era, I would like to see a U.S. flag in here in a public meeting.
Thank you. Good
Thank you.
comment.
Good morning or afternoon. My name's Barbara Hartman. I'm a broker up in the Reno area. My client asked me to speak on her behalf because she is a working single mom. I did submit my comments online as requested. So I'm going to just quickly go through this. This is what she has experienced and today is still not enrolled. January 15th, my client attempted to complete the application online. When she got to the point to sign and confirm, she encountered an unresolvable error. She called me and was unable to move the application forward. I instructed her to mail her check to Nevada HealthLink to secure the February 1st effective date. She mailed her check from the main post office. January 16th, I called Nevada HealthLink and opened a case number. January 17th, I called Nevada HealthLink for an update. Nothing. January 22nd, 1 week. Called to inquire on status update. I informed the client no change. I demanded a supervisor call me because it had been a week with no progress. January 29th, 2 weeks. I finally talked to the supervisor after playing phone tag for a few days. She was able to confirm that they had received the check and that her coverage would be effective February 1st. The system was having a major update and these applications would be pushed through over the weekend. I called to give my client the good news. My client confirmed that her check had been cashed. February 17th, 3 weeks. Called the new broker support line for an update because I did not see any movement online. The rep indicated that the fix did not work and this case was elevated to level 2. I also sent an email to the carrier to see if they could push from their end to get the enrollment done. I contacted my client to give her the bad news. February 11th, 4 weeks. My client called frustrated because she needed to fill RX and seek medical care. I called the exchange and they demanded that they enroll my client today. I also contacted the carrier to see if they had any luck. None. I did inquire if I should start a new application to ensure a March 1st effective date. I was told no because they were going to get her enrollment pushed through for a February 1 effective date. February 12th, I expressed my concerns to C.J. Bowden at the Nahu lunch. He suggested that people access and pay for their care and then appeal to get it paid for. I explained that these are HMO plans, and if you did not get referrals and or follow the rules, the appeal process would not work. February 12th, my client was contacted by someone at the exchange. They indicated her case had been elevated and that her enrollment would be in the carrier's hands by Friday, February 14th or Monday, February 17th at the latest. She was extremely happy. February 18th, 5 weeks, my client was contacted by someone else at the exchange. They wanted to confirm her plan, the amount she paid, and they reminded her that her March premium was due on February 25th. They also wanted to confirm if she still wanted a February effective date. They told my client that the enrollment would be quick from here. February 25th.
Client's name and number, and let us see what we can do on that. Thank you.
Press the button and then state your name. There you go. And state your name for the record.
Sure. Hi guys, my name is Edwin Torres. I live here in Henderson. I just would like to express my good experience, the great experience I had when with the people when I was trying to enroll for this process. I have no clue. I have no idea what I have to do. And I just want to say thank you so much because these people with a great customer service, they really made me feel comfy and comfortable, and they helped me and they let me know everything what I need to do. And actually, I would like to say thank you in Spanish because there's a lot of people over there today don't speak very nice English, and it's a lot of people today feel more comfortable when you speak in Spanish. So, simplemente quiero agradecerle y quiero hacerle saber a todas esas personas que están allá afuera que este proceso yo realmente lo recomiendo. Me hicieron sentir súper cómodo, me dieron las sugerencias que tenía que recibir, me guiaron por el camino que tenía cuál era el mejor plan que yo tenía que agarrar para mi insurance, y me hicieron sentir súper bien. Yo solamente estoy aquí para mostrar mi gratitud. I just want to say thank you so much. By my own opinion, by my own experience, this was great. It was customer service. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you very much. I think we had one or two other hands out here. Come on. Thank you, sir. And I think you need to press the button so the light goes green and then just speak right at the microphone. State your name. Thank you.
Can I speak in Spanish?
We're not hearing that up here.
Can we have someone interpret? Can you, Ms. Ellis has agreed to interpret, so we can hear it in English as well. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Atkins, can you make sure they get the microphone close enough to their mouth or we can't hear anything up here?
We're doing our best.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mi nombre es José Alberto Enríquez. Yo vivo en Henderson. Tengo 52 años y hace mucho buscaba un seguro de salud y no había podido conseguir.
Mi nombre es José Alberto Enríquez. My name is José Alberto Enríquez. I'm sorry. I'm 52 years old and live in Henderson, and for a long time I have been looking for health insurance.
Y esta gente de Nevada Link o de Obamacare me buscaron el plan adecuado para mí y estoy muy agradecido con ellos porque por mí solo no hubiera llegado, no hubiera podido. Y gracias a ellos hoy tengo seguro, aunque fue un poco difícil, pero ya lo tengo.
And thanks to the Obamacare through the Nevada Health Link and the help of an enrollment assistor, today I have insurance.
Muchas gracias. Quería dar mi testimonio y estoy muy agradecido con ellos porque me atendieron en mi idioma y para mí fue mucho más fácil. Así pude tener un seguro.
And I'm very grateful because the enrollment assistant took care of me and provided services in my own language, culturally adequate, I suppose. So that was more comfortable for me.
Tibby, I need to have you get a little bit closer to the mic. We can't hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think they couldn't hear you, Tibby. Can you do the
I'm
last
sorry.
part?
So the last part, he said that thanks to the assistance of an enrollment assistant in his own language, where in terms that he could understand, he is insured today, and he just wanted to give thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tibby. Do we have anyone else in Henderson who would like to give public comment at this time? It does not look like it.
All right, thank you. Any other person up here in Carson City? All right, we'll close public comment now, and we will have public comment again at the adjournment of the meeting. I think I want to move the schedule around just a little bit and have the Xerox report probably go towards the end because we do need some action items, and I want to make sure that we have a quorum for those items. So why don't we start first with Mr. Fisher and your interim management report, followed by discussion on the recruitment process.
Sure. Good afternoon. For the record, Steve Fisher, Interim Director of the Silver State Health Exchange, and thank you very much. I want to thank the staff here, first and foremost, at the Silver State Exchange for all of their hard work and dedication and for welcoming me into the fold here. I want to thank Shauna for that as well. Also, I would like to thank Xerox for all the hard work and effort that they have been putting in recently. They've added some additional resources, brought in a management team, and as well as other resources dedicated to the technical side of the project. What I've done, and thanks to the Department of Health and Human Services, also the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, the Department of Administration, the Division of Insurance, what they have done is they've allocated some resources to this project. We have some project management experience. We have a person here from the Department of Admin who is an IT expert. And we also have a couple of resources. Mr. Kipper has graciously allocated several resources from the Division of Insurance. And so we put together a charter for the interim management team. It really breaks down the roles and responsibilities for that management team over the different areas within the project. For example, we have Mr. Alan Rogers over the information technology side of the project. We have
Fisher,
Sandra.
Can I interrupt you for a moment? We are having a very difficult time hearing you, and
I'm sorry.
I think if you could please speak a little louder.
Sure.
Or get a little closer. Thank you very much.
And so we have put a charter together. Can you hear me a little bit better? Is that better?
No.
Yeah, my green light's on.
Picture of you, though.
Is that better?
No.
I don't know what's going on.
I think the mic probably even closer and like.
Yeah, I'm as close to the mic as I can possibly get. You want me to try a different mic?
Lynn, this is Shauna. Can you hear me?
Not great.
Okay, so it's not the mic.
This is Marie on the phone. I can hear you just fine. You're coming through loud and clear. I think it's maybe whoever, it's the sound system on the end of whoever's having trouble hearing.
Lynn, does this mic work better?
Much.
Okay, I'm going to let him have my mic.
Okay.
There you go.
Is that better, Lynn?
Yeah, I think let's move forward. We just turned the air conditioning off here, and everyone has their ears to the ceiling, so we're good.
Okay, so just to kind of back up a little bit, so we put an interim management team together. We've created a charter for that interim management team. It breaks out the roles and responsibilities of that management team. such that we have a person, Alan Rogers, who's over the IT side of the project. Sandra Chamberlain has come over, and she is over the project management side of that interim management team. And then we have 3 individuals who will share some responsibility from the Division of Insurance. We realized really early on, just over the last couple of days, that we were missing some resources from insurance. And myself, Sandra, and Alan really didn't have any idea about the insurance side of it, so we brought on some insurance resources as well to help out with the interim management team. And so I just wanted to share that. That's the status of our, interim management team as of today. My first day here was really Monday, so I've been on the job for 3 days now. And like I said, I just want to thank everyone here at the Exchange for the warm welcome and all of the help and the great staff that we have here. And I look forward to moving this project forward. So with that, do you have any questions for me?
Do any of the board members have any questions for Mr. Fisher?
This is Marie Kerr. It's not really a question. It's more a comment. Thank you for stepping up and taking on that role. I know it's not an easy one, and it sounds like you're off to a good start. I'll have some comments further along the line about specific things I'd like to see, but it certainly. But thank you very much for your assistance.
Thank you, Ms. Kerr. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 5, which is the recruitment process for the executive director.
Lynn, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So for the record, Shauna DeRoos, Chief Operations Officer for the Exchange. So as wonderful as it is to have Mr. Fisher here amongst us, I know that he has a very important job at the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services, and so we've also been tasked with finding a permanent executive director. And the purpose of this report, agenda item number 5, is to go through the process of finding that permanent executive director. A little bit of that is the general recruitment process that is required by the state, and then to give the board some opportunity to give us direction on where they would like this recruitment to be posted, how long the process should be, and items of the like. So I will go through this briefly. So generally when you recruit in the state of Nevada, even for an unclassified service, we post those jobs on the unclassified posting site through the Department of Personnel. In addition to that, we can post in all sorts of marketing or outreaching venues. We've included a few here. Other than the Nevada Apps site, there are online databases such as Career Builder. We had to throw in RenoHelpWanted.com. Long name, yes. Indeed.com, which is a pay-per-click. We can set the budget for those. Monster.com. There are newspapers. This week can be done across the nation. We also are involved with the National Academy for State Health Policy, NASHP. We could include the recruitment in their newsletter. There are monthly newsletters that go out regarding health insurance exchanges. And we can also post at colleges or vocational schools or hospitals. So there's many, many sources out there where we can post this recruitment. We have proposed 3 different options for the screening process. Once you have this posted, once you get in those applications, we need to be able to screen those applications for the minimum requirements for this position. We can do this in various ways. Staff can collect those applications and forward them to the board members for review as they arrive. The board can direct staff which ones they would like us to set up interviews with those people. The staff can collect applications and forward to an application review team chosen by the board. The team would bring back the most qualified applicants to the board to choose who they would want to bring in for an interview. Option 3 would be the staff collects and reviews the applications here internally. The application review could then rank applications, rank the applicants, and provide feedback to the board so that they can decide who to bring back for interviews. Now, these are suggestions. We can choose parts or all of these, and we are looking for direction from the board there. We have also included agenda item 5A, the job announcement. This is a draft job announcement. We did take the job announcement that we used for the first executive director recruitment, and also we have received some suggestions from the public through public comment that included items that we wanted to make sure were included in this. So we did go through that public comment and include some of those suggestions in the recruitment announcement. The timeline that we have included here is an aggressive timeline. If you look at the announcement itself, it says that the announcement could remain open until recruitment needs are satisfied. So although this particular timeline that is being included in this document is a 30-day announcement, it could be 45 days, it could be 60 days. We can have the length of time that the board chooses here. This was just to give an indication of how long it would take to get through each portion of this recruitment. We would have to have you all approve the recruitment process today. We could get it posted. It could be out there 30 days. We could start the screening process. We would bring the top candidates back to the board. We could then schedule interviews. The interviews at the board with this schedule would be at the regularly scheduled May 8th board meeting. If we extended an offer and gave the applicant an opportunity to provide notice at their current position, if necessary, this particular timeline would have a start date of June 2nd, which also is the start of a pay period here in the state of Nevada. So the recommendation that we are requesting is approve the job announcement or make changes to that, approve or make changes to the suggested marketing locations, and staff is recommending option 3 for the recruitment screening process, and again, approve or make changes to the timeline that has been provided in the report.
Thank you, Ms. DeRusse. I'm going to open it up for questions or comments from board members.
Marie Kerr, how much of a problem would it be to do a 60-day recruitment? Also, do you think it would be, I'm throwing this out to the rest of the board as well, do you think it would be useful to, instead of using services like Career Builder, you go to an insurance industry specific journal and put a recruitment notice in there? Because I think that would be very helpful to have somebody who has insurance industry experience. Thanks.
Mr. Roos, extending it out 60 days, I mean, that's the call of the board. And we were discussing this before the meeting when we were going through the agenda items in preparation for the meeting. We could even shorten that if we wanted to. If we got a huge influx of very qualified people, there isn't a reason why we would keep it going for 30 days. On the other hand, I want to make sure we've got a great pool of candidates to look at for this very important job.
For the record, Shauna DeRusse, so one of the things we did talk about was that having that the position was open until recruitment needs are satisfied on the announcement would mean that at any time the board could say this is the perfect person and we want to move forward, and you can shut down the recruitment at that time. So the board could start with 30 days. You could extend it for another 30 or 45. You could start it with a larger amount of time and then cut it off early. This timeline was a suggestion, and it can be, we can start this. If it goes faster, we can bring it back to the board in April. If it takes longer to get those qualified applicants, we can bring it back to the board in July. So I think this one, we can't control the market. We can't control who is going to apply for this position, and we probably need to be a little bit flexible.
Madam Chair, Lynn Atkins, I have a couple of questions. Was there any discussion about possibly hiring a recruiter or a consulting company? Or could we have that discussion? I don't know what the benefits would be of that, or if it's cost prohibitive, or if it's something that the state doesn't do. So I just was wondering about that. That's my first question.
For the record, this is Shauna. In my experience, the state has not used a recruiter or paid for the services of a recruiter. However, that's only in my experience. I can go look and I can talk with the Division of Personnel and I can find out exactly what the rules are about that and bring that back to the board.
I don't know what other board members or if anyone else has any comments on that. I don't even have necessarily a position. I'm just wondering if that is an option and if it's something we want to consider. As far as the screening process,
on the recruiter,
my
this is
thought.
Florence Jameson. What would be the advantage of a recruiter?
Lynn Atkins, as I said, I don't really know that I have an answer to that. I'm just kind of throwing it in the mix. I assume recruiters are professional recruiters in specific industries, and they have different avenues where they can go and search for candidates. I don't know that it would make a difference or be beneficial to this process. I just thought I would bring it up to everyone to think about. My other question or my other...
Who's on the phone?
That was Marie Kerr, but go ahead. I'll go on after.
Okay. Why don't we take all of Ms. Atkins' questions, and then I'll open it back up to those on the phone.
Thank you. In assuming we don't use a recruiter, which again I'm not advocating that. It was just a comment. Assuming we use the marketing and outreach and sourcing that is outlined in the agenda item, I would ask that we probably set up a hiring committee, and that all of the resumes and everything that come in go directly to whoever the chair of that committee is, rather than going to staff. So that's my one overall comment.
Okay, so that's option 2, and you would make that review team the team would be board members?
It's probably option 2, but not that staff collects applications. I would assume that it would, just for purposes of discussion, if the chair is the head of the recruiting committee, that the applications would go directly to the chair.
Okay. All right, let me open it up to board members on the phone. Ms. Johnstone? If your phone's on mute, can you unmute it, please? Maybe she had to step away for a minute. Okay, Ms. Kerr?
I actually fully agree with Lynn's suggestion. I think that from what I've seen, recruiters have a pool of people whom they call, whom they know are talented. And if the person is currently employed and they don't want to, respond, then they say no. If they are looking for something else, sometimes it's very helpful to use a recruiter because they already, again, many of them already have a pool of people whom they use or whom they contact. So I think it's a great idea. I don't know if the state can do it, but if they can, that would be great. And I totally agree with the idea of using a committee made up of board members. I think that's a great idea. So thanks.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Johnstone?
Yes, sorry. On the online databases, definitely add LinkedIn. It's a very commonly used place for professionals to go now. On the newspaper and television ads, I wouldn't see much traction out of television, but I would expand it to neighboring states, not just limit them to the Nevada papers and the Wall Street Journal. The suggestion of Ms. Kerr about using the trade organizations, health plans, insurance folks, I think the individuals at the state between DHHS and Division of Insurance could help out with access to their trade organizations. Those are pretty quick usually. On the other options about where to recruit, I would not go to colleges and vocational schools, but the hospital association might be a good source as well. I agree with the suggestion that the applications be reviewed by a subcommittee of the board, and I think the suggestion about using a recruiter is very good. Many of them are specialized by industry, but I wouldn't stop the process waiting to get a recruitment firm on contract, because that will just delay us even further. So we can try it on our own and get things moving with getting a recruiter in place. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Johnstone. Dr. Jameson?
Yes, on the recruiter, I just would echo the words we just heard. I wouldn't stop the process, but I think they are specialized in what they do. It's very interesting to look at that. What I did want to make sure is I like the idea of a subcommittee of the board reviewing. I know in the end that the board would review it and be the ones voting on it. I just wouldn't want to sidestep and not have the staff being the first group to review. In my experience, the staff of most organizations know very, very well, sometimes better than anyone, the skills that they need in the director. And I just feel it's really important for the staff to do much of the legwork, the preliminary work in selecting candidates. So I think a very good idea would definitely to be a committee of both staff and board members.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I've missed anyone on here. I think I agree with comments that are coming collectively from the board members. I like if we can do a recruitment firm and it complies with state law, I think we ought to do it, but not wait to get them on board. I'm in favor of having option 2, where the board puts together a team to review and then bring back those recommendations to the full board for interviews. So I know that's a little bit different than what I heard from Dr. Jameson. I think, and I would like to open that up to the rest of the board members. Do you see staff being part of that team, or do you see it as being just board members?
This is Marie Kerr. I think that staff, a member of staff or members should be a part of that team. I think that's a very good way to do it.
This is
Florence Jameson again. Staff such as CJ and others have been so in the trenches on this the last 2 years and know so well the qualities they're looking at. I would hate not to use their institutional and experiential wisdom and knowledge in this process.
This is Lynn Atkins. I would be in favor of the board putting together a subcommittee and having one member of staff, maybe at Mr. Fisher would designate one member of staff being on that committee, and whoever's the chair of that committee, their name would go on the advertisement and all resumes would go through the committee chair. And I'm willing to make a motion on that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
This is Leslie Johnstone. I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Let's do a roll call vote since we need to make sure we've got a quorum here.
Sure. Ms. Johnstone?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis? Oh, not here. Dr. Jameson?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Ms. Atkins?
Aye.
And Chair Campbell?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, motion passes. Do we have any volunteers to go on to that team from the board?
This is Lynn Atkins. I'll volunteer.
Dr. Jameson here. I know I'm the least experienced, but I would certainly like to volunteer.
Okay. Let me ask a question of our legal counsel here. How many board members can we have to do the screening process before we have to have a public meeting? I don't think the intent is to have the screening process be a public meeting.
Well, any meeting of a subcommittee has to be under your statute, it specifically says. So that would mean if you have a subcommittee of 3, two would form a quorum. They would have to meet together. So that would mean you'd have to have a public meeting for a meeting of 2. So if you have a quorum of a subcommittee, they've got to have a public meeting.
Okay, so the screening committee would constitute a subcommittee that would need to be publicly noticed?
Well, yes, you've got any subcommittee that's specific in your statute. If it's a subcommittee, they have to, if they're going to take action on anything and certainly discuss anything, they have to notice a public meeting.
If we had just a screening committee, would that have to be publicly noticed just to look at the qualifications of each person?
Well, if we wanted to go through the procedures of how the committee would operate, I would want to take it up, depending on how the committee wanted to operate and analyze it from that perspective. But just, I can give you at this moment, the answer is if it's a meeting of a subcommittee, if it's a subcommittee, it's a meeting thereof, they have to publicly notice that. If it's a matter of individual members looking at resumes without meeting together, there would not need to be a public meeting for that.
Hearing that, what is the pleasure of the board?
Chair, isn't that how we did the committee selections? For the subcommittee selections?
We did. I mean, that was not a publicly noticed meeting. We took applicants and selected those applicants for each of those advisory, and I see this committee being somewhat similar to that. My concern is if you had 20 good applicants that wanted to apply but didn't want their names revealed at this point in time, I'm concerned.
I understand that concern, and I've dealt with this issue, with another client, and the advice was, you had one person do the screening. That avoids having a meeting requirement.
This is Lynn. I mean, if so, that just sounds completely different from what we did for the subcommittee. So I would hope that we could do this the same way we did with the subcommittees, where I think we had one person from staff and the chair and the vice chair of the subcommittees review the applications and then made a selection. So I would hope that this could follow that path. If not, I would think we're going to have to go the path of a recruiter, because I would think this is going to completely hamper any really good chance we have of casting a wide net of applicants.
Yes.
For the record, this is Shauna. Just for discussion purposes, this was before I was hired, but as I recall, Mike Wilden was working as the ex officio executive director at the time. And Mike, didn't you and your staff go through the applications and screen them and present the options to the board the first time around? Would that provide that to have Mr. Wilden and his team do the screening? Would that provide that separation there and then bring the finalists?
Mike Wilden, for the record. Yes, when we did the hiring of the first executive director, HHS did the screening of the applications and brought forward applications for the board's consideration. There was a formal interview process, but we brought forward, if I recall right, 3 or 4 candidates, and you picked the immediate past executive director. And again, HHS would be more than happy to assist in the screening process, however you want us to participate.
Florence Jameson, the HHS isn't subject to the same open meeting laws and policies and that we would be?
No, they would not.
No, and I think this discussion really pertains more to option 3. I think where staff is doing it rather than the board. And I know there was a strong feeling, I think, among board members that they needed to be involved in that process. So if we only had 2 board members on there with more staff on it, does that cause a problem, or do you need to do a little research on it?
Well, I would be happy to do some research. Did that get picked up?
So I think that we could go forward with the recruitment. We could get the word out there, and then on next week's meeting, perhaps we could come back with further information. And in the meantime, as you've all said, not stop this process.
Okay.
And then come back and decide who's going to do the review going forward. Does that make sense?
It
Madam
does
Chair,
make sense.
This is Lynn Atkins, though. I don't think that resolves the issue of where the resumes are going to be sent and the applications are going to be sent.
Madam Chair, this is Leslie Johnstone. My suggestion would be that the applications go to Department of Health and Human Services if they are so willing. That'd be a logical place in the interim.
Any comments? And we could do that. I don't think there'd be a problem with them being sent to me either. So we could choose either one of those. So what's the pleasure of the board?
This is Lynn. I would ask that they be sent to the chair, but I also would love for Mike Wilden and some of his team to be on. Maybe I would love to have some of them on the committee too. I mean, there is nobody more experienced that we need guidance from. So
why don't we develop a committee plan with a little bit of advice from our council here? And I think the main concern is we want a good qualified pool of candidates without having to expose their names or applications and endanger their current employment. So why don't we bring that back? I think we've got the motion on what direction the board really wants to go. We just need to have it developed a little bit further. And
Madam Chair, one more question.
I'm going to take that the board is fine with the announcement. Next meeting, which is our regularly scheduled meeting, we'll come back to you with some advice on how the committee should be structured and what the requirements are for either having an open meeting or just a, quote, screening committee.
And just to confirm, in the meantime, we will change to apply, submit resume to, and then have your information as chair. Okay.
That'd be fine. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 6.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Leslie Johnstone. I think I indicated I could only stay on until 1 o'clock, so I'm going to drop off.
All right, thank you, which means I hope the rest of our board members stay so we will have a quorum.
Madam Chair, this is Florence Jameson. I am here, and I will be staying till it's done.
Okay, and Ms. Kerr, are you okay to stay till 2 o'clock? Thank you. All right, and I know
Madam Chair, it's my understanding Ms. Lewis is, I think, on the phone or she's listening and can't be heard, so I'm not sure if she's on the right call or not, but I just got a text about that.
All right, Ms. Lewis, are you on the line? All right.
She might have called in that listening number.
Okay. If somebody might text her the call-in line that we're on, if she's on the wrong one. All right, let's move ahead with the discussion and possible action for contract scope of work for an external analysis of the BOSS system. And Mr. Roos, are you doing that? You're going to take that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thank
Mr. Fisher, thank you.
Thank you. For the record, Steve Fisher, Interim Director of the Exchange. And for the board, what we have here is a recommendation, a contract with a company of Deloitte Consulting to come in and do an assessment of the project. And why do we want to do an assessment of the project? Well, I know I've listened into several board meetings over the last several weeks, and, some of the board members are asking questions, where are we? And asking questions about the project. And from an interim director's perspective, I have to look to the future as well. I know it's very important with open enrollment coming to an end here. We're focused on getting to open enrollment and getting as many people enrolled as we possibly can, but we also have to look ahead to the next open enrollment. And how do we get from where we are today to where we need to be for the next open enrollment in October? It's only, 7 months away. And so what we really need to do is have someone come in and do an assessment of where are we on this project and take a really deep dive into the technology, take a dive into the operations side, take a really hard look at the project, make some recommendations to the board and to the state staff here so that we have the information in front of us to make some decisions on what's the best action to take going forward. The assessment, the team would come in, approximately 20 resources would hit the ground, and they would take a look at, the project management of this project. They would take a look at the project management over the Xerox team. They would take a look at the project management over the state team. They would analyze it. They would possibly find gaps and or issues with that particular process that's being followed, make recommendations on how to fix that. They would take a look at the technology and the infrastructure of the project, take a deep dive into that, take a look at it, and make recommendations to the state and to the board on maybe possible changes and recommendations with the technology and maybe possibly different directions to go. They would take a look at the functionality of the online application, take a look at it, see what's working, what's not working, take a look at that, do an assessment on the Nevada Health Link application, and maybe make some recommendations there. They would take a look at the people and the processes, the resources on the project. What type of resources? They would take a look at the processes, I call it a call center, but I think it's called something different. But anyways, they take a look at things like the call center and call volumes and wait times, and take a look at the metrics that this gentleman here that made the public comment earlier on. They take a look at the metrics and make sure that we're meeting those SLAs. And so that is basically what the assessment would do at a very high level. Bringing on a contractor, and I know previously Mr. Wilden had made a comment about Deloitte Consulting. They do have a team on the ground here in the state. This team coming in would be members from different areas around the country with expertise in the exchange. They would bring that team in on the ground, and the team that's currently here would be able to bring them up to speed quickly. And so this is the recommendation before the board. And do you have any questions?
All right, I'm going to open it up for questions to board members. There were three attachments to that agenda item number, is that number 6? And I know there are a couple questions that I have that are real fundamentals. One is, do we have the budget for it? And 2, I think we're talking about an exempt contract in this particular proposal, and I'd like council to give us a little bit of background on how that is done. So let's talk about the budget first.
So in the past few weeks, for the record, this is Shauna DeRoos. In the past few weeks, I was approached to see from the finance side here at the exchange, did we have available funding for an assessment for a contract such as this? As you know, we are 100% funded by state federal funds. The PMPM that we do get right now is going to pay for our Navigator program. So I was able to do some research, and I was able to determine that we had about $1.5 million that we could put towards an assessment at this time, and that anything going forward, any additional costs, we would have to relook at the budget, possibly relook at grants, additional grants, and things like that before we could make any additional commitments. But right now, we do have the funding to commit $1.5 million.
Mr. Belcourt.
Chairman, Mrs. Jameson, my thoughts is precisely yours about the budget. I think there's an echo somewhere.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of feedback in Las Vegas.
$1.5 million seemed like for everything he described with people coming from different parts of the country. Would this be enough? And it also concerns me because, as Shauna mentioned, she said they have to have money set aside for navigators. And the very viability of our project going into next year, as we all know, so we don't have to start from scratch at the beginning of the next open meeting, is that we have a very strong, robust navigator system to continue helping navigators and producers working together. And I'm just, no, we haven't yet addressed, and Lynn's committee is working hard on it, and come and voted on the reimbursement. I know some recommendations have been made to how much they would be, but we don't really know how much we're spending there, so I'm not sure if we really know we have $1.5 million left. So I'm just concerned about the budget as you are, Chairwoman Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jameson. I do think that the research has been done and that the funds are available, and we don't need to worry about straining the budget for other items that we need to facilitate over the next year. But I would like to find out from Mr. Belcourt, as we're teeing up this conversation, how an exempt contract is facilitated under the statute.
Madam Chair, Dennis Belcourt. Under ordinarily, contracts are led by competitive bidding. However, under circumstances where a contract is, there are limited options. There could be a sole source, only a limited number of sources from which to choose. That competitive requirement, it does not need to be followed, provided that the administrator of the Administrative Services Division approves it as being a sole source, or an alternative would be a professional service contract, which includes a number of possible professional services. If it's determined that that's not adapted to competitive selection by the same administrator, then the board can go ahead with a non-competitive recruitment.
Thank you. Mr. Wilden, I know that you've helped us through this process before. Do you want to give us some background on Deloitte and why Deloitte?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike Wilden. As I indicated in the last meeting, my thoughts were that we're in a place where there's some uncertainty. There's lots of credibility questions. There's lots of where exactly are we, as Mr. Fisher said. And so to me, if you're going to do an assessment, it needs to be quick. They need to get in, get out, give us the assessment. We can move forward from there. The reason I've recommended Deloitte, as I've indicated, we've been working with them for at least 2 years now, I believe. As this project started years ago, HHS and the exchange have been partners in building Nevada's Affordable Care Act mechanisms. On the exchange side, the BOSS, the HealthLink is being built by Xerox. Deloitte did the work at HHS, the welfare division, to build the eligibility engine and built the federal hub piece. And so that has been, as far as I'm concerned, a mostly successful project. And so Deloitte's been on the ground here in Nevada for a couple of years, knows at least half of the business that we've been working on, and probably more than half of the business because they're in team meetings, interface every day, back and forth on the issues we have. So my feeling was... Mr.
Wilden, can you speak closer to the microphone? I'm sorry, we're having a problem.
Yes, my feeling was that if you want to have action quickly, you need to have somebody that isn't at ground zero. And so that's why I've recommended Deloitte. I would be remiss if I didn't say there's been other companies who've approached me, and probably others, who have said we could come in and do an assessment also. My humble opinion is absolutely they could, but they're starting from a more, if you will, restricted space than Deloitte would be. So my recommendation still is, if the board chooses to go forward, that I think what Deloitte has offered could get us a quick solution or a quick assessment and help us, have a comfort zone of exactly what is and isn't working and what are some of the next steps that we need to do, not just for finishing up this cycle, but as Mr. Fisher said, where do we go over the spring and summer to get ready for the second open enrollment period.
All right, I'm going to open it up for questions from board members on the phone. Ms. Kerr?
Not a question, but a comment. I fully support Mr. Wilden's comments. I think that it is invaluable to have a experienced, objective viewpoint on looking inside what to me is kind of a black box of what's going on with Xerox. So I think that would be great.
Thank you.
This is Levon Lewis. I would agree with that, and I would certainly support Mr. Wilden's comments also.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Madam Chair, I failed to mention in my research, I think it's pretty much public information also. I believe that Deloitte has built, I think it's 20 or 22 what I'd call eligibility engine systems throughout the nation, and they've also built 4 HIX systems: state of Washington, state of Kentucky, state of Connecticut, and Rhode Island, I believe. And so they have had experience on not just the eligibility engine federal hub side, but have built 4 exchange systems in other states also.
All right, Dr. Jamison, did you have any other comments?
This is Jamison. I would agree that it seems like a very reasonable plan. I look at this whole project as something like a company having not just their internal auditors, but having an external auditor come in. And generally, I feel in the reasonable thing to consider other entities besides Deloitte and see if they could say they could bring anything else to the table as someone completely outside looking at this freshly. But I do understand everything that Wilden has told us and the other board members have reinforced. I do appreciate that. But I'm not sure that it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a look from a completely external entity, a completely fresh look, and I think people experienced in this, like Deloitte, could do that even though they haven't been involved in the project.
Madam Chair, this is Lynn Atkins.
Yes, Ms. Atkins.
I think in a perfect world, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in, but we are in the circumstances we find ourselves in. And I think under the circumstances, it sounds like the best solution for the exchange to go ahead and hire Deloitte to do the assessment as outlined. I think I agree. Nothing is going to get, we're not going to have an assessment completed before this open enrollment, but our next open enrollment starting in November, and we need to get this fixed. So I would move to enter into a contract with Deloitte to have them do the assessment.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Marie Kerr, second.
Levon Lewis, second the motion.
Okay, Levon, I think Ms. Kerr got there right before you did.
Okay, well, I had to go
Thank
off
you,
mute.
but I'm glad you're there. Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion about the motion on the floor? All right, we'll take a roll call vote on this again.
Ms. Kerr?
Aye.
Dr. Jamison?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Johnstone? Oh, she dropped. You're right. Thank you. Vice Chair Atkins?
Aye.
And Chair Campbell?
Aye.
You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes us back. Now we're through all of the voting items. Thank you. And thank you, board members. I know this is not our normal board day, and I appreciate everyone adjusting their time to accommodate this important agenda today. But let's go back now to the Xerox status report. And who is going to be presenting the report? And you're in Las Vegas, correct? Okay. This is agenda item number 3. For those that are watching online, that attachment is part of, if you click on agenda item number 3, you'll see the PowerPoint that we will review. You want to identify yourself for the record, please, and make sure you keep that really close or we won't hear anything up here. We can't hear anything.
Can you hear him?
Hear me?
Oh,
Kristen, can you give Greg back that mic?
Yeah, that's the mic that's live in your hand.
We can make the other one live.
No.
No. The woman there in your
Kristen.
left hand, that mic needs to go to him.
Yes, Kristen, please give
Yes.
that one to Greg.
Is it mic 3? She's saying 3, I think.
Greg, can you go ahead and test it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
And please stay close to the mic or you fade out.
Okay, I'll do my best and just
Thank you.
remind me if I shy away from the mic. Good afternoon. My name is Greg Bidiello, and I'm here representing Xerox. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to allow Kristen Baca and I present to you today. Based on feedback that we received from the board, my understanding is that you would like us just to touch on the highlights from our report, give an overall summary as to our progress, and then allow you the opportunity to ask us questions about the report. So I'd like to confirm that that's how we will proceed.
Yes, thank you.
Very good. So again, my name is Greg Bidiello, and just wanted to take a few minutes to discuss our steady progress towards the road of improvement. We've, over the last week, we've experienced an additional uptick in enrollment. We've continued to make steady progress with regard to our call center performance. And we continue to implement fixes to the web portal to improve the overall consumer experience. As you may know, we're currently going through an audit. We are cooperating with the state audit group, as well as we'll be going through an internal review with Ernst & Young. Regarding enrollment, over the past week, we enrolled an additional 894 members. That represents a 4.6% increase, and our total enrollment for this week is 20,214 medical members. We have completed 3 of the special enrollment campaigns, and to date we have referred approximately 160,000 individuals to DWSS for Medicaid processing. Additionally, of the 32,000 pieces of correspondence that was outstanding, we have processed to completion 19,000, or nearly 59% of that inventory, and are on track to complete that inventory as expected. To address Mr. Wilden's question last week regarding the 2,173 paper applications, to date, we have processed 1,212 of those paper applications that we received between February 1st and February 24th. And of the remaining documents or applications to be processed, we have 351 that have not been touched that we are currently processing through, and we expect to have those completed by tomorrow, and 535 that have been touched and are waiting for additional information to come in from the client. We had 821 total carrier issues that were reported since January 22nd. Of those, we have completed 620 and have 201 outstanding issues that we're working to resolve. Additionally, as the board is aware, we had set up a special case management unit to handle escalated issues that come in from the governor's office as well as the legislative offices. Of those, there were a total of 173. We have resolved 59 of those, and those are individuals who now have coverage. We have begun our meetings with individual brokers and navigators who have expressed an interest in meeting with us. We've scheduled meetings over the past week. We've had the opportunity to either have those individuals come to our offices or go and meet with them at their offices and sit side by side with their representatives and understand what experience that they've been having through the process, and have been assigning folks to try to help them with any of their consumers get through the process. We continue, as I said earlier, to make updates to our system. To date, of the 182 priority 1 defects that were identified to be completed, we have completed 142 of those, are on a track to complete the remaining 40 by the end of March. Additionally, last week I reported that we had 661 invoices that were from the initial premium invoice for March. I'd like to report that all of those 661 have been sent out to consumers, and the remaining 1447 invoices for the month of March will be sent out by tomorrow. And we're kicking off the April invoice process tomorrow evening, and expect that those will go out on time by Monday, March 10th. With that, I will open it up for any questions.
All right, I'm going to open it up for discussion for board members to Xerox. Does anyone want to get started on the phone?
Marie Kerr. Okay, so first of all, I'm happy to hear from that we're making progress, and I was also happy to hear from Lucia in the public comment that we're making progress. I was unhappy to hear that Mr. Bassett's issues are still not being addressed. Is there any possibility of assigning one person to deal with Mr. Bassett's issues so we can make sure that the next time we come back, they're resolved? That's my question. And anyone like him. We also heard public comment from a broker representing her client who has an unresolved issue. And these are people who have paid for their insurance and they seem to be lost in the system. Can you assign one person in your organization to fix their problem? I don't think it would be that difficult to do, rather than having them bounce from person to person. And I really would like a report that I certainly don't want to keep hearing that these problems, these unresolved issues keep going on. Congratulations on making fixes. We appreciate that. We know you guys are working hard. We know staff is working hard on this. But we can't keep having these people with unresolved issues, especially if they've already paid for their insurance. From my perspective, this is a paying customer. You got to get them signed up. All right? And more than being a paying customer, there's somebody who needs health. These are people who need health care. And that's why we're here, is to get them that. So thank you. Look forward to your answer.
Thank you, Ms. Kerr. This is Greg Padiello again for the record. We have assigned a person to work with Mr. Basich. We understand it's been a very unfortunate issue and one that we hope to have resolved very quickly. And we've assigned someone to help him, and any future issues which may arise, and we certainly hope that they won't, we will assign a specific person to handle and work with them. As I indicated earlier, we've set up a special case unit up in Carson that's working directly with the exchange and the governor's office. And when these unfortunate situations come in, we do assign a specific person to handle this particular type of issue, and we will continue to manage Mr. Basich's case until it's resolved fully.
Florence Jameson?
Yes, Dr. Jameson.
I was just curious, in our office with the new mandated electronic records, it's really been very useful because every time a patient calls, instead of having things on paper charts everywhere, you have a log of everything. And when someone opens that patient's file, you can instantly see every phone call logged in that has transpired. When you guys are working on a patient's application, electronic one, is there a way that your people working on it, is there a note box that they can itemize every interaction, every phone call, every incident, so that somebody starts to see with these people, like even after 3 of them, it's like the old saying, if the phone rings more than 3 times, it's too many times. If somebody's actually called about an issue more than 3 times, that it needs to go to a specialized team that's acting on that immediately, so we can see these just being kicked around from one person to another. Do you have a way to track that with each of these? You should have that sophistication in your electronic system.
This is Kristen Baca with Xerox, for the record. Yes, we do. So we have a case management program that maintains all of the interactions and notes from those calls. Apologize. And with that, we also have call recordings. Apologize. One second.
I can't hear you.
Give her just a minute. She's coughing and needing a little glass of water.
I'm sorry, I'll while Kristen is taking a drink of water, I'll just fill in. So again, as Kristen had indicated, this is Greg Padiello again. We do have a case management system where we track every incident that comes in through the call center. We're able to document every interaction that we have with that individual through that contact management system. And we record every phone call that comes in, so we can go back and listen to the conversation and for any follow-up that's required. In addition, as we, as special incidents occur, the special case management unit is also, maintaining a log of these individuals, from when it's initially reported until completion.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that log readily available the minute the patient or client calls and your worker opens that chart or that file? Do they immediately see this accumulation of issues? Do they immediately see that before actually going right into it? Is it on there?
Yes, Dr.
Or
Jameson.
could that person answering their phone call start to address them with the immediate problem without knowing the big picture, without having sort of looked at that and understanding their chart or their file or their profile?
This is Greg Padiello again. When a caller calls into the call center, the customer service representative will go in, enter the customer's identification, either their number or they can look up by their phone number or they can look up by their name, and the information that is returned to them is all the information available, with the interactions of that client. So the answer is yes to your question.
All right. Do we have any other questions from board members on the telephone?
Lavon Lewis, no questions at this time. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Atkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions on, and you might have gone over this, and if you did earlier, I apologize. On page 5 of your presentation, where it says cases, the balance 5,118. What are those cases?
So this is Kristen Baca for the record. These are cases that are open from, from a phone call from the call center. So these are unresolved cases from the call center.
So are these 5,000 in your 20,000 figure?
Yes.
So these are considered enrollments? No. I'm sorry. We say 20,000 people have paid and have health insurance.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
This 5,000 on page 5, that is an open case, is that in that 20,000, or is that 5,000 more that if we actually fix their problem, we'd have 25,000?
Possibly. So these particular, these are phone calls that came in, people who reported issues that there is follow-up to be done. It may be that, you know, we're waiting on additional information from them. And so it is possible that by resolving each one of those issues that it may ultimately result in an enrollment. But I don't want to, you know, tell you for sure that every one of those will result in an enrollment.
But would we, Madam Chair, is it all right if I keep going back and forth?
No, that's fine.
So I would assume that the 20,214 people who are enrolled and who have paid and we're counting don't have any issues. Am I wrong about that? That's just a lot of letters. Do we know, have they been open? Have they been categorized? Do we know if they're applications? Do we know if they're follow-up paperwork? Do we know if they're complaints? Do we know what are those 10,000 pieces of paper?
I apologize. So this is Kristen Baca for the record. So the letters have been categorized. We do know which ones are applications and which ones have not been touched of those. So we do have that information. Letters are, in this case, most of them are applications from our San Antonio office. And so a majority of these have been worked. They're pended for information needed from a consumer, such as a license or additional information for whatever reason. So a majority of those have been, they've all been categorized. And a majority of those have been worked through the system and waiting for additional correspondence from, from a consumer.
And are any of those counted in your cases, or?
No, ma'am.
So when you say majority, I mean, do you have the numbers with you? How many are applicants that are pending of that 9817?
So I do have those numbers.
Is someone talking? I can't hear anything.
They're looking for an answer to the question.
I will have to get back to you, but it's in the 8,000.
8,000?
Yes. 8,000.
People who have applied and are submitting some sort of additional paperwork, and so that 8,000 is in a, and I get your estimating. I know that you don't have that number in front of you for purposes of this discussion. We've got potentially 8,000 in that pot and around 5,000 in this pot of people that are trying to get enrolled and are being held up.
So I do want to make a correction on the cases. Cases are unresolved calls that are coming into the call center. And they could range anywhere from a termination, a refund. They could have a question on an invoice, but they're unresolved calls that have come through the call center. They may or may not be cases. They may not be in an enrollment specifically. Same with letters. Letters are pended. Letters have been queued up, have multiple queues within within that category, and we do know which are applications to be worked through that process. And the number that I'll give you later on today, we do know the number that were expected to get additional correspondence from members. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I think I'm just, these numbers again are so big, and I don't understand why it's just all taking so long. I just don't understand it.
So there, and I feel the frustration, absolutely. And I believe the difficulty is when we do an outreach for information, we're making multiple attempts. So we will have multiple attempts by either letter, by a phone call, or by email to a potential member to ask for more information to be able to push that member on and enroll them through the process.
And I have one final question right now. Do we have a number, and I'm hoping the number's 0, but I can hope, for people that have actually gone through the system, picked a plan, and paid? Does every single person who's done that have an insurance card? Do they have a card? Does their insurance company know who they are, and do they have a card? And if the answer is no, it's not 100%, how many people are in that group?
I believe the question is, of the 20,214 people who have paid today, how many people have membership cards? To date, I would have to work with the carriers to make sure that those outbound material have been sent. So I'll have to do, some research on that. However, 20,214 individuals have gone over to the carrier through an 820 or 834 process.
So there is nobody that you're aware of that's paid and has not received their card.
That's not true. So I would have to work with the carriers because it does take some time. By the time an individual becomes a member yesterday and pays, it has a period of time for them to get the cards in the mail and receive them. However, there are letters that go out welcoming to them and stating the carrier that they've chosen.
Okay, let me just ask that in one different way then. So every single person that has paid Xerox has transmitted that information to the appropriate carrier. So there is a 0 backlog on getting that information to the carrier.
So of the 20,000 that we reported, we believe that all of those individuals have been reported to the carrier. We are working with the carrier on each of the carriers on a weekly basis right now to go through and work with them to reconcile the membership to make sure that there's a handshake between what we believe we have sent and what they currently have on their files. We know for sure that there are individuals who we have sent that the carriers may not yet have sent out a card or may not believe they have membership in their membership. And so we are working with them to rectify that situation. So to give you the exact number, Ms. Atkins, I don't have that number for you, but we'll continue to work, and as we have more detail, we'll be happy to provide it.
And this is Krista Baca. Again, that is correct. So we have through our process, completed 20,214. We do have a reconciliation process that's still in track today to confirm that all 20,214 individuals went over to the carrier and received an acknowledgement back. So that is part of our process to do that. There are some that do kick out through the process, and we work those individually and make sure that they're over to the carriers. So there are some of those individuals.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a question for either one of you. I participate in those carrier calls every week, and the frustration level for the carriers is, I would hate to put it on a Richter scale at this point, but that reconciliation process does not seem to be moving along quickly enough, nor does there seem to be a deadline on when it's going to be completed. Can you give us an update on where you think that is and when that reconciliation process is going to be complete?
So this is Kristen Baca, for the record. You're exactly right. Those carrier calls are difficult calls. We have multiple complex issues that are impacting the carriers today. I believe that reconciliation is a term that we're using for multiple pieces within our process. What I believe are important, and I believe that continue to get escalated weekly, are the 820 and 834. Those are our prioritized reconciliations that we're working on with the carriers to confirm, just as Ms. Atkins asked, have we confirmed that those individuals have membership cards in their hands and able to use the services that they paid for? So the secondary question is, when are we going to get those done? So we are working as quick and hard as we can to make sure that those processes are happening. We do chunk them where we can. If we find individuals we see that are isolated for one event or another, maybe an APTC problems impacting a population of people, we're trying to fix those quickly and make sure that those are resolved and pushed through. So to have them 100% reconciled through the process, they never get to 100% because you always will have some that are continued research through that process. But we are working diligently hard to get that done as soon as possible, because these are people who we need to make sure that the carriers have that information with them. Sorry.
Well, and the risk is that when that reconciliation is not complete, there is the appearance, or could be the appearance, that a person that's enrolled has not paid, and probably results in some of the frustration that we're hearing here in, I hope it's this side. Yeah, can you close your mics just for a minute? We're getting a lot of feedback here. Let's just see if that helps it. But what I'm concerned about is listening to the public comment that we're getting today from Mr. Bask, from Barbara. I remember your first name because it's the same as mine, but unfortunately I don't remember your client's name. But that frustration level with people is, at this point, I would think that we would be much further down the pike than we are at this point in time. And it's frustrating when we've only got 3.5 weeks left and we're still dealing with the fundamental transfer of information back and forth to the carriers. I would really like to see what that deadline is, knowing that you are going to have continual issues on a daily basis. I think everybody expects that in the normal course of business, but to have the backlog that we've got now and the lack of the reconciliation to the carriers is a fundamental business practice that needs to be corrected.
This is Kristen Baca, and you are correct. One of the areas that we discussed yesterday that we do feel was an issue and have since then put scripts out for Shauna to take a look at is CSR's looking, working with this screens that they have, and there's 2 stats. 1,214 enrolled through the process. We have multiple campaigns that we're working on to increase enrollment. We also have pended individuals in our process pended for process of payment that we continue to do outreaches to close those out and continue to monitor a couple areas that we're working on is people who are in the shopping cycle and also people who have chosen a plan and need to sign and submit those applications. So we will continue our campaigns. We're also working with local agents and brokers to improve some campaigns with them also throughout the month.
Before I close this agenda item, I think I've gone through all the board members, but are there any other questions as a result? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wilden.
Thank you. I have, I guess, one comment and 2 questions. First, I want to say thanks for the paper application update for my comments last week. But So it's confirmation that there were a couple thousand paper applications out there. I would want to make sure that we have continued reporting on the paper application. This is a first on that. That was kind of news to me, hearing that through several, if you will, client complaint processes. And so I hear a lot of people are still frustrated with the web and they dropped a paper. So I want to make sure we're keeping an eye on the paper process. And then my comment or question on page 7 of the statistics, I continue to be concerned about the new production defects injected, is how you guys call it on this thing. So we're seeing a dozen to a dozen and a half new production defects identified each week. And to me, that's either we're getting better at identifying defects, or every time we promote code, we're creating new defects. And so what that says to me is we may not be doing adequate pre-code promoting testing, and I would like to see some comments going forward. Are these new injected production defects as a result of inadequate testing before code promote, or are they simply newly identified defects?
This is Greg Piniello again for the record. Mr. Wilden, I'll address your first question regarding the application processing. We will continue to at least report on these applications as well as any additional paper applications that come through the process as per your request. Regarding the injection of the new defects, where you see that we have approximately 10 new defects coming in on a weekly basis. There are new issues that do get reported, based on consumer experience, and as we do receive those, we do appropriate research of them and determine whether or not they require an immediate prioritization or fix. We'll never be down to 0 defects, especially as we continue to inject new features or features that would have been delivered back if the system had been fully ready on October 1st. On the report, you notice that we're anticipating that with the delivery of the 25 new features on March 21st, we are expecting an injection of defects with that new code. As much as I would like to say today that we would deploy that code with no issues, our reality is that there will be some, and we will work to work those down. So we'll just continue to improve the process as we go along. What I will say is, as we have been, fixing items, we've had fairly decent success with, and I don't have a specific number to quote to you, but for example, this week we completed 54 defects, and they went in without issue. And of course, it would be beneficial if we had more time to do testing, but with the rapid, process that we're using to fix items, we are, very focused on, fixing items in the system as quickly as possible. And we'll be working with Mr. Fisher as we move forward.
All right, we're closely getting close to our cutoff time here. I think you've been present when you saw the board elect to move with the contract with Deloitte, and I hope, as we all hope, that you're very successful in getting all of the fixes done. We want you to succeed, but I hope that you look at Deloitte as a partner in moving this forward so that we can close out March 31st with higher enrollment numbers that we have now. But looking to the future, we need to make sure that this process is nailed down and fixed by the time we have open enrollment for 2015. So I do hope you look at them as a partner and welcome them and help them through their process as they report back up to us. So with that, I'm going to close this agenda item. Our next board meeting is going to be our full board meeting next Thursday. I believe Mr. Fisher and I are going to be down in Las Vegas for that meeting. Is there anything on the agenda that any board members want to suggest to staff so that we get that teed up for a future meeting?
Madam Chair, Lynn Atkins, I would ask that the consumer assistance update from our committee meeting be put back on that agenda. And I also think that there's been some discussion about what happens after open enrollment ends, what's going to happen with the people in the pipeline. There had been discussions, and I know one of the people at Open Comment also made this point, but for the folks that have gone through the system during open enrollment and then are sent to Medicaid or apply for Medicaid and are denied Medicaid, and how all of that works and all of our timelines and what our policies are. So I would ask, however someone wants to word that, but I think we need to have that discussion as well.
No, and I know staff's working on that. There was a recent call with CMS talking about how part of the enrollment might be extended, and staff's looking into that, and will report back up to us on that. So, any other suggestions from board members? All right, I'll open it up for public comment again before we adjourn the meeting. Is there anyone in Henderson for public comment?
It does not look like it.
Okay, here in Carson City? Oh.
1 minute. Hi, Charles Swanson again. I'd like to thank Mr. Fisher for understanding the core of my comment. The real issue I got is on sourcing contracts. That can be dangerous when you trying to go for a firm and you make the assumption that's the only one qualified out there. Working within the Army system, National Park system, City of San Francisco, and Lyon County, typically you go out for requests for qualifications to define which firm you want, get a request for proposal where you negotiate fees, deliverables, schedules. So I think trying to go sole source can lead to a little danger here. So I suggest you rethink that. Thank you.
Was there anyone else for public comment? You want to come forward and identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Jackie Peterson, and I'm an insurance broker. I've been licensed.
We cannot hear this person.
Are you turned on? Is it green light? Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm an insurance broker, and I've been licensed for now 30 years as of this month.
Say your name again, please.
Jackie Peterson.
Thank you.
And I'm out of Sparks. And I beg you, please, I didn't hear anything talking about the payment process and making these payments online. And the thing that I keep running into is that with making the payment and then the effective date, that's a mess. And I don't know if my clients are effective January, February, or March, but people who are now being made effective January 1st do not want to go back and pay 2 or 3 months premium at this late date. So I don't know where we stand with that, but please, we really need some help. We really do. Thank you.
We'll make time.
Thank you. Barbara Hartman again, Straight Arrow, and again, I'm an independent broker. I want to thank the board. I think you guys get it. I think the exchange gets it. Even the people at Nevada HealthLink that answer the phone are very pleasant, though they can't fix anything. But I grabbed the wrong paper. Some of the things that I don't know if Xerox is aware of, that they talk about where people have been successfully enrolled. I am, through working with carriers, being able to track my clients, and I have found that even though they get to the carrier, PCPs are not being sent over, broker information is not being sent over, and even more importantly, that when they are enrolled in a silver plan, the cost sharing reductions are not sent over, and that can be huge for people. So that, even though Xerox may think these people are enrolled, they're not enrolled successfully. I've had issues where case numbers, when I've had clients who've called in on a case number, they said, oh, it's been resolved. It's not been resolved. The case I gave this morning is just one of many. You put in a PCP, and when you actually print out the information from the exchange, it shows the member's number as a PCP name. Payments, I had a client who was set up for automatic payment, went through for February. Her system is messed up. They can't edit her, get her fixed so that she can log in. So she's now having to make payments through the mail and hope that she doesn't get double dipped if that automatic payment system hits again. A client that similar to the one I noted, called again this morning, seeing where he's at. Yes, they do take notes in those case numbers, but nothing's happening. So had we been instructed, I kept asking, and they said, we're fixing it, we're fixing it, we're fixing it. I could have had these people that have had issues since mid-January do a new application and be enrolled as of March, and that's not happening. So again, thank you for your time, thank you for understanding, and hopefully Xerox can fix the system so that it is successful.
Watch for a notice. We are creating a broker advisory committee. You probably want to follow that and make some public comment at that time too. So thank you. Any other public comment? All right. With that, I want to thank staff and Xerox for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week, Thursday. That meeting will start at 1 or 1:30. It's normally scheduled for 1:30, but watch to see if we change that because I don't know how much is on the agenda that day. But typically it's at 1:30 and goes till about 4:30 or 5. So thank you very much, everyone.